Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well.
How's everyone? Welcome to our show.
I'm really excited about today.
Me too.
So we've decided we should continue a bit. We had a first show some time ago about wrong way of thinking in the youth, especially, and how that affected their mindset, how that affected their mental health and made sometimes things difficult in life. So we had in mind to have this person on our show for quite a while.
Yeah, so you've been on our list.
Oh yes. So do you want to introduce her?
Yes, and today with us is Kathleen Roche-Nagi. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Is Managing Director of Approachable Parenting, which provides parenting support to BAMI families, especially Muslim families. Kathleen has a varied background. She is a qualified nurse and midwife in Dublin. She's also a qualified counselor, a BACP, life coach, AMS, and teacher QTLS UK. She has been delivering 5 pillars of parenting programs since 2007. Welcome, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure to be interviewed by you both indeed. And I'm looking forward to discussing a bit about parenting, and I'm sure you will contribute much more than what I will contribute to this show.
I will say, I'm sure you have, I'd like to add that I know Kathleen personally as well. She's a fellow convert as well, and we've been sort of hanging around in the similar circles over the years, and always a pleasure. I remember actually, Kathleen, that the first time I was exposed into inverted commas to cupping hijama, it was through you in one of the retreats we went. You were doing a little workshop about that. So it dates back, goes back a couple of decades, that I think.
I cannot remember that. That must have been a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So always what I like is like always you're always trying to find ways of, from a long time you've been into trying to improve people's lives and health, and then you have developed this approachable parenting. I attended a couple of your workshops, one of them at Living Islam Camp 2016. And I thought that was an eye-opener in a lot of ways, because you said we would contribute maybe more, but the way you're also a mother, you're a grandmother, and you see it as well from the eyes of a professional, so maybe a little bit more analytical, which is always useful when we talk about education, emotions. So
my kids think I'm too emotional, and I think it's normal to be emotional. But they don't like it.
Yeah. So what? Off you go, Kathleen. Kathleen, just go ahead.
Well, parenting, I suppose we all have a lot of things to contribute to parenting, indeed, and it's not that we're trying to change the world, because I think people parent in different ways, and we know there's theories behind what we do, but it's not always about getting that theory across. It is about trying to help and support people in an Islamic way to do the best they can, and to remember that this is a way of gaining rewards. And subhanAllah, so many parents are in that mode, that kind of robotic mode from morning till night, in tuck, 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 and doing things, that they actually forget maybe to reflect and think, why am I doing this? And how can I gain rewards for it? What can I do to please Allah? And it's simply by having that intention of whatever you're doing, whether it's cleaning the toilets or the kitchen, or shopping, or buying clothes or food, or whatever it is for your children, or getting them ready for their lunches ready, that you have that intention that you're doing this for the sake of Allah. And by doing that and having that intention, you're being rewarded for it. So it's the easiest way to gain rewards. And I think that's the messages we try to get across to our parents, as well as giving them some skills and knowledge to make things a bit easier for them, but to try and help them to, I suppose, take a breath, really. So to pause and just to breathe, and to remember, what are we doing and why we're doing it? Because life goes like this. And you probably have heard me before, I'm sure you've heard me in Living Islam saying, that it seemed only like yesterday that my daughter, who has 3 children, was my baby in my arms.
Mashallah,
Where did the time go to? Subhanallah, you know. So it's we need to grasp every moment and nourish it as best we can, inshallah, and inshallah may Allah reward us for all we're doing, all our efforts, inshallah.
So to pick up on what you just said about you remember your daughter being a baby, but when I became a mother, it made me realize I was that baby in my mother's arms. And I became a lot more compassionate and understanding and forgiving towards the things that I accused my mother of being, because I realized, hold on a minute, she saw me with those eyes. You know, it's not the first time someone has a baby. I'm not the first mother on earth, you know. So there's like a long line of mothers, and her mother before her used to be. And you then see relationships that you have with people in your own family completely differently. Hasn't kind of, you know, sorted everything out, because we are our own, you know, people, and then the stories of our, you know, of our lives impact our relationships, and then conversions come in the way into Islam. That does not help sometimes. So but alhamdulillah, I'm blessed with great parents. But what I mean is that you kind of, I don't know, I took a bit of a humble, you know, I became a bit more humble towards my parents, thinking, yeah, they had the same worries with that little bundle of joy that I have with my own, and I'm now a 50-odd-year-old woman, but yeah, they all still see me as their daughter, as their little baby.
Isn't it amazing? It's amazing how like generations go on and on and on, and how we feel, how we change, how we really understand our parents is when we become parents ourselves, often like this. And as young people grow up and they're in their teenage years and getting married, they say, oh, I'll never do it the way my parents did, or I'll never be like my mom. And then they find that they're actually repeating a lot of what their mom said. And most of that is brilliant stuff and great stuff. I suppose what we're trying to do in Approachable Parenting is pick up some of the things that's not so good, and how we can change that to be better, and how we can use our knowledge with psychological principles, but also our Islamic knowledge to help our parents to be better parents. So we feel we're hoping to guide them to be better parents. That's what our motto is, actually, guiding parents to better parenting. And not just Muslim parents, we actually work with non-Muslim parents as well, and they come on the course and we welcome everybody. We've nothing to hide, but we have so much in our Islam that is about parenting. And probably you both have come across this, and this is one of the reasons why I kind of came into parenting. Well, I'll tell you, there was a lot of different things, but one of them was because I could see that as a convert Muslim, the references that were made in Islam, the things that were there, and be able to, because I think when you convert, you're analyzing a lot of things, and you're developing yourself a lot more than other people may have gone through, and you're thinking about things and thinking, oh, this is there, and how can I incorporate this, and what can I do with this? So I think I was probably a step ahead of other people that was raised Muslim in understanding, or trying to understand, these principles and incorporate them as best I could into life. So it's not something new. It's something that has been in our faith for hundreds of years. But alhamdulillah, Allah put me in this position. I did not think that I would ever be in this position, but Allah has put me in this too. And inshallah, I'm hoping that it is benefiting some people and some families, and inshallah that I will be rewarded for the efforts of trying to get this across, inshallah, to our communities, inshallah, I mean.
Yes.
I have a question. Not everybody grows up in a healthy family, right? And as converts, I mean, anyone, converts or not converts, a lot of families, they raise the kids with a lot of toxic behavior, especially if you grew up in some traditional families. I'm a convert, so I'm not referring to Muslim traditional families, non-Muslims too. What do you do? Well, like when I first became a mom, I saw the kids as, well, like I dedicated myself to them, right? I thought, oh wow, I'm gonna do so many things with them. I'm gonna, maybe not even consciously say it, but I wanted to do it differently, completely from my family. And not as like a joke, but like seriously, because we grew up in a very interesting family concept. Very traditional father figure. I say what goes, and I think my mom had some mental health problems that we're just realizing. So what do you say to parents now who grew up with that kind of like unhealthy patterns, to give them hope?
There's always hope there. There's always, and we didn't choose our parents, and we must remember this, that Allah has put us with those set of parents that we didn't have a choice over. But alhamdulillah, we have come through that, and I'm sure gained a lot from that, and we can use a lot of that. And there is maybe some things that we need to tweak, and you haven't gone into specifically what it is, but if I give an example from my own background, we were smacked as children. Smacking was something that was cross-culture. It wasn't just something that was done in one culture or another culture. It was kind of, and it was accepted, and it was in school as well. I remember putting out my hand for, either the cane or the black stick, depending who was doing it, because we had one female teacher that had this thick black stick, and wow, was that hard. And then the headmaster who had the cane, and if you pulled back, you got 2. And often you were smacked for being innocent, and it's probably, and those situations that I can remember that, you were just in the wrong place, where everybody, the whole class had to put out their hand.
It was common discipline. This is what they were told they have to do. Yeah. Otherwise, they're rooting you if they don't do that to you.
Yeah.
So my sister, we went to school in Greece and in Canada, and at one point in Greece, my sister was talking in class, and the teacher slapped her, and she was so incensed. She goes, "If we were in Canada right now, you'd get arrested." So she had the guts to say that to him. Oh. And that went back to my dad, and my dad was so furious with her. He ordered her to go say sorry to the teacher in front of the whole class. And then my sister didn't say it in front of the whole class. She apologized privately, but then the teacher also said, "I'm sorry," privately. Mm-hmm. So he guessed whatever my sister said thing. But you grew up with that. I wasn't talking about it. It's like when back then they were told they have to do that you should never show your kids weakness, that you should never say sorry. That was advice that would even be told to parents on the radio or TV. So we can't really blame them.
Exactly. We can't blame, but we can now know that that is not right, and that was never something in our Islamic faith. If we, again, just taking that concept and bring it to Islam, did the Prophet Islam ever slap a woman or a child?
Never.
No. So there is ways of raising children without smacking them, and this is where our faith has implemented or has implemented of how we are today and how we deliver our parenting programs and how we try and help parents to remember that, especially from a Muslim point of view. But even if they're not Muslims, we have, again, it is something proper, something right. It's something Islam has brought and educated us many years ago, where, as you say, through many cultures, they didn't understand this. And you're right. I remember if you were smacked and you went home to your parents, they say, "Well, what did you do wrong?" It wasn't, taking your side. And
I'm gonna tell the teacher off. No, wait. So now, if say a parent has a problem with shouting, they shout a lot, and they come to you for advice, what's the one thing you tell them to do to help them reduce? Because shouting is really inborn. Like, when you grow up with it, it's really hard to stop it, especially when you're in the moment. So what would you say as a parent?
And you don't even realize that you're actually doing it unless somebody points it out to you. Often you don't realize you're doing it, or else you reflect back on it later on maybe and think about it. But I would say, if you're in that situation at that time, just stop and breathe and take a deep breath and kind of ground yourself. I often demonstrate this to parents. I stand up and actually stamp my feet on the ground, like literally trying to ground myself, so that energy goes to the ground, like the earthing wire that we have in the house to earth ourselves. So it's earthing yourself to let that energy out, because what our parents need to remember when they do reflect on this, or when they're trying to implement change, are you shouting to get rid of that anger from yourself? So you're trying to feel better about yourself and get rid of that anger? Or are you trying to educate your children and do things in a different way? And if you're trying to educate your children, which most people go in with that intention, then is this the best way to do it? Are they listening to you when you're shouting? Are you getting that message across to them? How are they going to be feeling afterwards? So all of the messages that come out of that we need to think about, and then put a plan in place so that we can prevent these from happening in future. And this is what we do over our courses, where we talk about different concepts to be able to plan and put processes into place to prevent this from happening. And we do a lot of role plays. So some of the role plays are like this, where we actually do a shouting role play, and often the mom is in the kitchen cooking and not paying attention, and a child comes in very excited about something, and the child is pulling out of her, telling her, show, look at this, look at this, look at this, and in the end the mother shouts at the child to go away. And often they don't even realize this, but when we role play it the right way and how to respond, I've had parents with tears coming down their faces, because for the first time they've seen themselves in that position, and they may have known that they've been doing it wrong, but not know how to do it right. So that's what we like doing, is try to show them the little tweaks they can make to doing it right. And then it's not just them doing that. We actually measure it on psychometric questionnaires pre and post the courses. So we know that from those questionnaires that actually they've changed their practices and that they are doing it right. And our red pie charts are turning to amber and green, and the different concepts, which is brilliant.
MashaAllah. I mean, we know from Islam anyway, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you feel yourself get angry, you know, sit down. There's all like you de-escalate rather than escalate the situation. Sit down or go and make wudu to put out the fire, the coolness of the water. And actually, it's really amazing. But recently, I've actually found out that when you put water, cold water on your nose, it automatically lowers your I can't remember exactly which chemical it was, if it was adrenaline or cortisol or something, but just basically has a direct effect chemically on your body to calm you down, to cool you down physically, but also calm you down. Just putting that cold water in the nose area. So imagine making wudu, you wash your face, you blow your nose, everything, you've got water, it instantly cool. So Prophet ﷺ said, do this, but actually, as we always end up finding out, there is a scientific reason behind it, not just a common sense advice. It's actually a very physical reaction to it. And I've noticed that, yeah, anger brings anger. That's another thing as well in the brain, that if you are angry, it makes you angrier. So expressing that anger makes you angry, and in yourself, but also obviously, as you said, like it really is counterproductive. I know inevitably sometimes I get caught in the moment and I start shouting because of all sorts of things and accumulation of frustration. And then you start shouting. So obviously, what is the response? When they're little, they might just start crying or go away, whatever. When they're older, they answer back, and it becomes a shouting match.
Yeah.
And some children, depending on their personality, some of my children would just kind of brush it off and go away, ignore me. And others would just answer back, and it would just never end until it just explodes. Or one of us realizes, hold on a minute, what are we doing? And generally, because I'm the mom and I'm,
it turns into a 2-hour lecture. My kids have accused me of doing that.
I generally don't calm down myself. I try and say, I lower my voice. I've noticed that even if I'm angry and it's very justified, if I start lowering my voice, everything calms down again, because they feel heard. They don't need to shout louder.
Exactly. Lowering voice is brilliant, is one of the examples we give. It's beautiful like that. And it is, the chemicals go around the brain, and you don't have to actually realize what you're doing if you're in that process. So it is trying to change that process. And like as you mentioned, we've great examples of how to to control anger from our Islam, you know, as you mentioned, stand up, sit down, lie down, go do wudu, all of these concepts that parents know, but sometimes they forget. And then it's that gentle reminder of reminding them when to do that within the parenting arena and the situations, and try to plan for these situations. So there is common triggers that happen, you know, trying to go to school in the morning, getting out the door, you know, or in a rush, everybody in a stress. You're in a stress because the traffic is building up and I need to get there, or if you're driving them, or we're late if we're walking, and the kids don't maybe have they can't find their socks, for example. They had them 2 minutes ago in their hand, but they're gone now. I don't know where they are, if they're young children or older children. They forget, oh, today is PE day and I don't have my bag or whatever. And there's those last few minutes that delays you a few minutes, causes that tension to build up and those stresses to build up. So if we can be organized from the night before and have things in place, and have all the lunch boxes ready, and the shoes beside the door and the socks in it and things ready. So, and we have a time that we can count down to, and giving yourself those extra few minutes in case anything does happen. We can all leave the house better, more relaxed indeed. So there is times like this that we can prepare for, to preempt wrong situations or difficult situations from happening, to put in processes to be better indeed. And then we can sit down as families and discuss things if are bigger situations of what needs to be done in this. And this again is an Islamic concept. We're talking about shura here. The shura concept, sitting down as a family together, discussing things. You know, when I remember going back and seeing Neighbours many years ago, probably way before your time, when it started in Australia, and it was very well known in Ireland. And they used to sit down and have family time. And, you know, I remember so many Irish were so shocked about this. What's this family time? When they never heard of the concept before. It was unknown to families like this, but it is something in our Islam. SubhanAllah. So, you know, it's again going back to our Islamic principles and implementing them, integrating them into our parenting, and to have a better environment and a better open environment where we can discuss things and plan things and preempt when things may be difficult, and how we're going to come up with different solutions that would help. And then as the older the children are getting, you are probably trying to empower them to make those decisions. So if they're going out on their own for the first time, what they need to do, how they need to do it, how do they prepare for coming home, what bus or train they're going to take, what happens if their phone runs out of battery, all these complications. If their money was stolen, what are they going to do in those situations, so that they are confident in going out and being successful. And that's what we want as parents. We want to grow up our children so that they are confident young people and will have successful lives, and to go out in the world. We don't want them at home with us, living with us, relying on us all of their time. This is our duty, Islamically wise, to grow them, to give them that foundation, inshallah. So inshallah that they will continue the next generation, inshallah, and be good Muslims, inshallah, in doing it.
This is what I find really useful as well, is to, as much as possible, try and understand how your child works, because we're not of the same mold at all. So, you know, you might have a child who has ADHD and struggles then to focus on little tasks. It's just very active. You might have a child that's completely lost in their dreams and takes ages to get ready and gets distracted and like thinking about, you know, and just very, very slow. Others are like, that's it, everything has to be done bang, bang, bang like this, otherwise it doesn't work. And you've got to deal with that and your own ways of doing things as well. So it's really important. I think I've learned a lot just by doing simple, you know, basic psychology tests about, you know, do I happen to have a little bit of the ADHD? Oh yeah, okay, well fine, this is how I function. Okay, I understand now why I do certain things this way and not the other way, and why I get irritated by this and I get like the difficulty of getting ready, and that's my issue. I always forget to prepare something when I have to go somewhere. So I'm again like up and down, where I'm looking for this, looking for that. Mm-hmm. So and other things were the 5 languages of love. This is a thing that I found really, really useful to understand what makes me tick, what makes me feel loved. You know, is it hugs? Is it being told that I do an amazing dinner? Is it, you know, there's 5 main things, as you're aware. And there was another thing as well, which I always recommend to do, especially when you're newly married, is to read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And these are all things that are not from Islam per se, but when you look at it, it's all just common sense. How men and women function and kind of have different ways to react to the same situation, just because one is a man, the other one is a woman. And we have different objectives, different ways of understanding things. And when you know little things like this, it just makes such a big difference.
And I just wanted to pick up on something that you mentioned before the break, when you were both talking about marriage and the difficulties, and then you were talking about pre-marriage. And of course, that is where marriage starts for us as Muslims, looking at who is going to be the mother or the father of my future family, inshallah. And fathers have a huge role, really important role. We do a lot of work with dads, and we have male-only trainers that do dads-only courses, actually, to try and facilitate their needs. And it is really important, if we're talking about pre-marriage, to look at that. So we have a couple of courses around that, actually, that we do. So one of them is called Me For You, and that means marriage education for you. It's looking at marriage for young people over the age of 18 and sometimes into their 30s, which haven't been married, but giving them time to really look at themselves. So the first part, or the first module of the course, is looking at who am I and understanding yourself. What makes me tick? Who am I? Doing actually a SWOT analysis on yourself, your strengths, weaknesses on yourself, and also doing a SWOT analysis on your parents to learn what have you learned from those parents. Really know yourself, really going deep into yourself. And then we look at who am I looking for? So the second part of the session is who am I looking for? Am I looking for that knight in shining armor? Am I looking for that Cinderella, or that servant at home to be able to take on board what my mother used to always do for me? Or as women, looking for somebody maybe wanting to escape from their home environment to more freedom? Often this is what young people tell us that they want or think of marriage. So we look at that and trying to break that down, and then again, of course, bring it back to our Islam. What is it that we should be looking for in our Islam, and getting our young people to reflect on what they need to change in themselves, because often they think we'll get married and I'll change her or I'll change him, and they go into with this approach that I'll change the other person. There's this thing that I do to change it. But what about ourselves? What are we going to change in ourselves before marriage to be a better person going into that marriage? What do I need to give up to incorporate that new person into my life that we can do together? Activities that we can do together. So if you're out, for example, as a guy, you're out 3 or 4 times a week playing football with your mates, how much of that do I need to give up to devote this time to my wife and have that devotion, that time together? So we look at that as well. Then we look at some examples of when things can go wrong that causes big issues. So we're looking at maybe domestic abuse, and what can you pick up beforehand? So we say Mr. and Mrs. Right versus Mr. and Mrs. Wrong. So what can I pick up beforehand that can kind of get me thinking about this person? Are they being attentive to me? Are they really liking me and wanting me to be better? Or is this some sort of a different approach that they're having, a power over me and want me to change? So we could, coercion or something like this that could lead to other things. And then we also look at different personality styles and how would you approach things or relate to things differently. And we do that through a game and different animals indeed. So we do a lot of things actually through a fun way. And also we look at values also, which is very important part of the day, where we're trying to get young people to know what are their values, because they can't actually achieve in life their goals if they don't know their values. And they probably have never looked at this before. What is important to them and why is that important to them, and what makes them up as a human being. So this is another coach. So all of the concepts are delivered through a coaching style, using a lot of these coaching concepts to try and get our young people to look at themselves, to be better people themselves. And then following that, we've just got a new course, which we were trying to put on next weekend, actually the 10th of September. We may have to postpone it if we don't have enough people attending, because it is for couples. So this is a new course for couples, and I don't think this time of the year is probably the best, because this is why we're thinking of postponing it. People are still in the summer mood and haven't really thought about it. We're not in the marriage season, so to speak, so we probably need to think about a different time to put it on. But these couples coming together to forming the foundation of their marriage. So it is either couples in the engagement period, and I know this means different for different people and different cultures, whether you're talking about an engagement or nikah, or whether they've done the nikah and they're actually married legally, or whether they've done the nikah and they're going to have their legal marriage soon. And some people call it the white wedding, whatever it is, that, you know, different cultures have different ways of approaching this. But getting the couples together that are in those relationships together to build those foundations and give them the toolkit that they need to build a successful marriage and look at things in a different way. So we have in that course looking at the marriage and the legality of marriages. So we have somebody that will be delivering and talking about that. We have looking at the commitment together. What does that mean, committing our lives together? Looking at communication and conflict, and how do we relate to conflict, and what do we do to overcome conflicts? Compatibility, and what does that mean? How are we compatible? And then our connection going into intimacy, and what does that mean, and how we can overcome some of these difficulties that come out, or these challenges that come out of relationships. And especially we're finding there's a lot of things that are affecting young people at the moment, with internet, with social media, with young people, both men and women, being addicted, unfortunately, to pornography. There's a lot happening like this that we are looking at to try and build those marriage foundations together. So we're trying to address this with some of the taboo topics, but not just from a fiqh perspective. Yes, we always have Islam there, but trying to give some practical skills and principles to be overcome that. So look out for this. I say, if our listeners could look out for that coming up in the near future, and they may want to come to that. I know we've done the Meet for You previously in Manchester, actually, and it was very successful there. So this is the second phase of this, and we would really like our imams to know what we're trying to do, so that I know they do a lot around the fiqh, and we've attended and listened to a lot of those talks, but ours is different from a practical perspective, and to try and get our young people as ready for marriage the best we can, so that they can then look at the marriage and look at how they're building that family. Because in the UK today, and when I work with parenting and try to seek funds for parenting, it's usually from pregnancy. So most of the government organizations look at from pregnancy, but as from Muslims, you understand very well how we go back a layer and we look at it from the pre-marriage.
It's very interesting. Do you do these courses online or face-to-face?
So face-to-face we do, and we have done them online in lockdown. We've done the pre-marriage one online, and it has been useful, but it is probably better face-to-face. It's a one-day course. Both of them are one-day course from 9:30 to 5:30. We always have a lot to do, and the time, although it seems very long, it goes very quickly because people have fun doing it. It's a fun day in doing it. And people tell us when they leave, yes, they're really tired, because we get them to think. So they're really tired because of that, but they've had an enjoyable day doing that. And it's a lot of exercise, a lot of moving around. So it's not there sitting down doing a lecture. It's very interactive in how we try.
Do you want to give at this point your contact details for Approachable Parenting, and we'll repeat that at the end of the show as well.
Brilliant, that would be really good. So it is approachableparenting.org.uk is our website. Our social media, you'll find us on both Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. There are 3 kind of main areas, and everything that we do is more on social media than it is on our website. We're a bit slow on our website and we're trying to upgrade that, but it'll take a little bit of time. Or if you ever wanted to ring us, our office number is 0121 772 773 8643.
Great, thank you so much. And you said your workshop are generally where?
So in the West, we always start different projects in the West Midlands because that's where we're based. So we always work from at home first and then see how does that progress before we bring it out to different parts of the country. So we do hope to bring the marriage, because the parenting's already been delivered before in Manchester face to face, and of course we deliver things online where everybody can access it. But with the marriage one, which is new, we will hope to bring it to Manchester, inshallah, in the future, inshallah.
That's
It's just having
great
trainers.
having you in our great city. So moving on a little bit, so I think it's essential. Yeah, people tend to forget that when you get married, this is going to be the father and the mother of your child. So it's not just you. Do you get along with them? Do you fancy them? Are they handsome, or is she pretty and slim? You know, what kind of a parent is that person going to be?
Do they cook really well? What are their housekeeping skills like?
Yeah, a lot of things to think about. So that's quite essential. But so if we move on from that, so say that parent, those two, that couple got married, and obviously now all of a sudden she becomes pregnant, the body changes, stretch marks appear, you know, some weight gain and change, and the baby is born, and the mother is told, generally speaking, in the best situation, generally what happens, the mother becomes completely devoted to that new little baby, and what happens to daddy? It's like, ooh, what's going on? So if it's someone who's fairly well balanced as we can be as imperfect human beings, we kind of we tread that new life kind of okay, but sometimes it can bring a lot of problems if early on, yes, it wasn't very clear the sort of relationship, and it was just all based on being just in love with each other and not realizing that having a baby will bring a complete change of dynamics. So how what sort of advice would you give? Or
definitely, yes, and it's probably I think the first baby to a family has the biggest change in dynamics that happens within that family. I
always say with my husband, the first baby takes 95% of your time, and then after that you can have 5, 6, 10. It's only going to take the remaining 5%, but the first one is like the biggest shock.
And it's like everything in life, isn't it? That's kind of like everything when we have to learn a new skill and things like this, you know, the first time learning it's just so difficult, but then after some time you can do it like in the back of your hand, as you say, you know, and it is just knowing what to do and when to do it, you become perfect. So it's similar in parenting and becoming pregnant. And I think a lot of our parents miss out on that pregnancy and don't understand the importance of that connection with the baby and that bonding during pregnancy first, so that we try to get those messages across to them, the importance of that in pregnancy. The baby can hear your voice and can hear everything that's happening, and that is a blessing for us if we're listening to nasheeds or Quran. So when the baby is born, actually this is the white sound in the background that you can actually buy now apps for this white sound, you know, that they're selling apps for wash machine sounds and for Hoover sounds and things like this. But we have Quran and better to be helping for that white sound in the background, so that baby understands and knows and is comforting to our baby. So it's trying to build that attachment. And what we would say is give baby a little nickname and start talking to your baby, and get dads involved in that, in building that bond from the beginning as being part of this. because dads are really important in our children's lives, and they are not just there when the baby is born to change dirty nappies. And that's what happens, you know, in a lot of couples. Poor mom is really tired and she say, oh, you change this or you do that, because they're kind of pushed away for the feeding, because a lot of our moms are breastfeeding, which is wonderful. And again, is something mentioned, our faiths and the importance of that. And there's been a lot more now medically wise given. The NHS is really trying to promote breastfeeding. We know how important it is. So mom is so involved with that dads often do feel automatically pushed out. And some moms think, well, they can have that bonding time when over changing nappies. Yeah, they can, but they also need nice bonding time, nice time to be able to play with baby, to be able to get that laugh, cuddle with babies, to understand baby's cues, to understand baby's reactions, to understand, we call it attunement, to be tuned into the baby. So it's like tuning into a radio and turning the dial to fine tune to get into a station. It's the very same thing with your baby. How do you get to know your baby and understand what they're trying to tell you before they start crying and making things really difficult, because they're trying to get a message across to you, which we can pick up in our body language, in their body language first. And if they do start crying, they're actually different cries for different situations. So there's a different cry for being hungry, to wanting their nappy changed, to burping. And we teach parents some of that. There's somebody in Australia actually did some study on this. She was a music teacher and she understood the different cries, and that's why she's made a lot of videos and did a lot of research on it. So it's called Dunstan baby cries. So if anybody wanted to look it up, they could look that up, and it's really great. So that parents have this as a toolkit in their toolkit bag, as I often image it, like Santa with his bag on his back. If you can have all these tools in your back, on your back, before baby comes, so that you know what to do, you feel more confident going into the situation. So if you hear, for example, nah, 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 that means hungry. Or if you go like this, oh, and actually when you hear the baby crying, you will hear these sounds, and that means baby is tired. It's like making a yawn sound of their mouth.
Interesting.
So different, subhanAllah. You know, there's a lot we need to do to be able to research how we can understand our babies more. But all of these things will help us connect with our babies and be able to respond to them quicker and see to their needs, to have that environment and that happier environment at home. And of course, some babies do cry more than others, and it is hard on both parents. And we do talk about postnatal depression on our pregnancy courses, and how to understand that and pick that out. Especially for mums, they suffer more from postnatal depression, but it's not just mums, dads also get postnatal depression. And some of our dads are really surprised about this, but actually there's about 5% rate, maybe even more, might be as high as 10%, that suffer from postnatal depression. And whether that is because they have to take on extra work because they feel that responsibility and they're really stretching themselves, or from sleep deprivation, or feeling they want to do more and they're not contributing enough, and that affecting them, we need to be aware of that and see how can we help them as well as help a mom in situations like that.
There's also something I find with all the children and sort of my relationship with them when they were even from a very young age, how mothers are naturally the nurturing one. They want to protect them, make them clean, happy, no issues, everything smooth. And the dad is more kind of, I'm going to throw you in the air. I'm going to throw you out in the world. I'm going to push you in, to challenge you. And I'm like here to kind of open their eyes to the world, but also not mollycoddle them. And then I'm like always kind of, oh no, don't do this. This is too much, or this is, but then my husband always says, no, but that's my role. I should not be. It doesn't want, like, it's a bit of a good cop, bad cop role there sometimes. But it's really kind of, no, I don't want to. I'm here to make them tougher. I'm here to prepare them for the outside world, whereas the mother is more kind of, oh, I'm going to prepare a little nest, and no, I don't want them to. It's a bit too dangerous, a bit too tough for them,
So true, but isn't it important that we have both there?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
we to
Possible,
grow
yeah.
our children and enable them to grow, so that our, you know, if you're looking at climbing a tree for our children, mom is there thinking, oh, health and safety and this, they're going to hurt themselves, and dad is probably saying, yeah, I'll give you a lift up to
Yeah.
the branch.
But
Yes.
to pick up on what you said, like ideally two parents, but if there aren't two parents, then it's important to try and find another role model within the close family or close friend or someone who can take on a bit that role.
Exactly, it is, and we have, our families are more complicated now than they have been in the past, and we've families come in different ways, you know, single parent families and to multi-layered families or multicultural families all living in the one house, where you've extended families all living together. So families come differently, and we need to accommodate that. But with that comes the benefits. We can always help and try and get that male role model into that family situation. If you are a single parent, a single mom with children, and see how can we, who can be that male role model there, or what can I do to help in that male role model to grow, or what maybe activities, or maybe going to things such as scouts or whatever, that they do lots of outdoor activities as well. So you're getting those activities in there that have the same ethos, the same underlying principles, that they're looking at child development in the same way as what we are trying to do at home, and yeah, and help and support. So it is important that we have equality there in both, so that we can help our families to grow, whatever perspective. And that rough and tumble, but that father's role is so important there. And what we have found a lot over the years, and when we've done dads only courses as well, is that we need to meet our dads at times that they are available. And we've done courses at 8 to 10 p.m. on Friday nights, when most people in the working environment would be at home, relaxing, putting their feet up, you know. We are there meeting our dads and engaging with our dads, because that's the time that they are ready and that they are available. And where possible, have male trainers, as we say, or maybe depending if the group is mixed, have mixed trainers, male and female there, because some groups are mixed when we do them. But what we also found is that dads often don't know how to play, and feel embarrassed that they don't know where to start and how to make that connection, and where to play and how to play with their children. And I've come across that from all kind of dads, from every background, whether they are professional and they may be even in the psychology field, to others that are not in those fields and just don't know, you know, give me some ideas. Where can I start? What can I do? How can I connect? And we know that a lot of our parents want that connection time with their children. They want that relationship, but to build that relationship, you need to be doing something and building it into your week as a constant thing to build that relationship, that bonding together, that for close time together or family time together, whatever it is, to build that. It's not going to come automatically. You have to invest in that. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. It can be 10, 15 minutes, 2, 3 times, 4 times, brilliant. 4 times a week is great, but even twice a week, even getting that in as quality time, where you're there in the present, in the here and now, forget about everything else and focusing on each one of your children. That's so important to build that relationship, build that quality time.
How about, before you go, because I know we're coming near our ending time with you, talk to us a little bit about the teen-parent relationship and a little bit about the parent self-care.
Okay, brilliant. The teen relationship, you know, again, going back to our Islam, we have be 777. Friends. No, yes, friends, teach, and no, it's not start.
But it's play, yeah, play.
Play. Exactly. Play. I was just talking about play, but it wouldn't come to me.
Yeah, I'm right in it. That's why.
You're right. You're very focused. Yes, play, teach, and be friends with them. So that concept, and we talked about play, we talked about teaching, because we can teach through play as well. But being that friendship, that's when the relationship changes, when they're around about their teenage years, to build that friendship with them and to take on board things from their perspective, not to be there saying, this is how it is done, this is how I'm telling you to do it, and do it, but to listen and understand from their perspective, because society has changed and has changed probably in the last 20 years more than has ever changed over time, when we look at social media and it being in our children's faces, and they probably are more educated because of social media than what we ever could be, because they can pick out their phones and Google. Mr. Google is great for telling our children things, or YouTube, whatever it is, great for our children. But there's, it's important that we are there on an equal basis with them, and understanding them, and understanding the emotions that goes on in this time. The emotions when they go into the teenage years and puberty, when some days they want to be back as a child and playing, and some days they want to be an adult and they're having conversation, involved in the conversations. And how we incorporate that, and how we enable them to make mistakes and support them in the learning from those mistakes. Maybe enable them to make mistakes, not a kid didn't come out the right way, but they will make mistakes. How can we support them then to learn from those mistakes, and not be critical and say, I told you so? Because that's the first thing that often comes to our mind, pointing the finger and saying, I told you so. But you didn't listen to me, so it's trying to look at it from their perspective, building empathy with them to look at them, because a lot of us have forgotten what it was like when we were teenagers ourselves. But if we can remember that, remember how we felt, and then put on an added layer over that of all the things that's happening at the moment, the peer pressure that's going on there, and the amount of influences their peers have over them compared to you. So you've actually, if you haven't done a lot of the foundation work, you can very easily lose it. But there's always hope, there's always time. So if parents are listening today, I would say there's always time to build that relationship and really get to understand your children and get into their zone. A lot of times when I talk to parents, they tell me about situations and difficulties they have with their children. And I say, what do you do with your child? And they say, they're always playing on the PlayStation. I said, and do you play with them PlayStation? No, I don't know anything about the PlayStation. Well, why don't you? Why don't you learn and get into their zone and understand it, to be with them? If you were trying to build a friendship with somebody, so you met this person maybe on the street and you got to know this person, you think, I really would like her to be a friend. Or if it is a man, I really like him to be friends, together just as a friend. What do? We don't tell them all about ourselves, and we don't tell them, you need to do this and you must do this. No, we listen to them. We find out more about them. We what influences them. What are they thinking? What do they like? And we build that relationship. It's the same thing with our teenagers. We need to be there building that relationship with our teenagers, so that they will come to us, inshallah, before they go to somebody else and get the wrong information or wrong advice, inshallah. And it's then supporting them in their marriage, and of course, and having children. So the cycle goes around and around, inshallah. And we just want to try and build that relationship with them, inshallah. So I think that's the best advice I could give parents. And probably also learn a little bit about protective behaviors. There's really good concepts and tools there about how to keep your children safe. And even for parents, how to keep yourself safe, actually. And these concepts can save lives. So it can get your children thinking in seconds and using those valuable seconds that could protect them if they were in difficult situations or situations they shouldn't be in, inshallah.
So really, really essential. I always find that children like us, go through different phases in their lives, and if they're boys and girls, a bit different times when they move away from you and then come back to you. But I find that if, as you say, if you've developed already, even early on, as early as possible, that bond, even if you have arguments and everything, there's a moment where they'll come back. It might be that they only come back. I don't mean like come back because they've left and they've not talked to you. It's just like, where you feel a bit kind of disconnected and far from them and you can't reach them. There's a moment they come back, and it could be for a girl when she becomes a mother herself, but it could be also when she's becoming 17, 18 and she's a bit more mature. And same for the boys. They're like different stages where I felt completely remote from my child, and I was like, how am I going to reach out to them? They're completely closed off. And then a year or two later, they seem to have gone up a notch in their stage of maturity, and they're back. And because I was always there. Oh yeah, I was not like all honky-dory and it's great what you do. No, of course I was telling them when it was wrong, etc. But they knew they could come back to me, come back to their dad. We were always there, even if they did really, really bad things, you know, even sometimes illegal things. No, the love is still there. I will be angry with you. I'll be all sorts of things, but like Allah always will always forgive you if you go back and ask for forgiveness. Like Allah, I will always, you know, be there, whatever you do. And I think that reassurance is you know, to be able to come back to the home, whatever they do.
So important indeed. And I don't think our parents probably even think about the influence they have on their children growing up in this respect. And I was just thinking there when you were saying that, because I was imagining you hugging your children. So that was what was going through my mind. And if parents do that, and I know some parents are more shyer in hugging in front of their children, but if parents do this hugging, they're teaching their children from a young age that where to come for that emotional attachment, to come home for that emotional attachment, rather than going somewhere else when they're not married for that emotional attachment, and to always come back and have those hugs. And these messages are subconsciously being learned to our children as they're growing up, indeed, and bring them back into the fold of the family again, no matter, as you say, how bad things are. If we know the truth, we can always help and support you and work through that to make whatever outcome. It may be difficult at a time, you know, it may be something that we have to acknowledge that it's our responsibility, we've done something wrong, but how can we change things to make it right and overcome that and then move on? So it's dealt with and tied up and packed away, so it's not always coming out every time they do it, and going back to them and reminding them of this wrong thing, that you dealt with it and you moved on to you know, the better things, and always looking positive and looking at things from a positive perspective, inshallah, as we should be doing as Muslims as well.
Yeah. Very true. So Angela, you wanted to find out, you had asked about self-care, to finish off on a good note there.
A lot of parents, mothers
especially,
but I'm sure dads, to feel guilty when they do things for themselves. It doesn't include the kids, or they're not doing their normal routine with the kids because they're doing something for themselves. What can you advise us parents?
I think they are. I think parents don't give it themselves enough chance to have that self-care, to recharge our batteries. So the batteries go down and they're not recharged themselves to fill their own battery to be able to give back. Because it's like being on an airplane, isn't it? What do they say when you're in turbulence? You know, the masks will fall down. You put your mask on yourself first before you look after your children. So this is the very same thing in parenting. You need to put the mask on yourself. You need to fill yourself up, breathe in all that oxygen and energize yourself and fill those batteries up to be able to look after your family and to be able to care for them effectively. And I think that's where parents often feel guilty and don't do it, and don't take the time out to do it. And self-care can be anything from sitting down, having a cup of tea, you know, this is my time, and even telling their children, this is my time, or going away to a room, to watching your favorite TV program, to, you know, having a bath. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be going outside and having a weekend away, for example. You know, that's maybe very luxurious. If you can do that and have a break, or some of the sisters going away, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. And especially for mums, as you said, you know, it's really good for them to recharge their batteries. But on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, we should be doing little things like this. Yes, often I say to parents, even trying to associate things with prayer. So we have a little CD that I did many, many years ago about relaxing and doing a little bit of self-care. And I did it because on the market in those days in parenting courses, it was people were relaxing by going to the beach and taking off your clothes on the beach. And I thought, oh gosh, as Muslims, I wasn't relaxing at all. I was getting more nervous, you know, imagine taking off my clothes on the beach, and who else is on the beach, who's going to see me like this? So I put together this little CD that brings us to paradise. And actually it's for me, and I think for a lot of parents, it helps us to relax and to think, why are we doing this, as well as giving yourself a few moments to breathe and to understand why are we here in this parenting role, that inshallah, we will all be in paradise one day, inshallah, and whatever we want will be given to us there, inshallah. And how can we be better in this world? But I just need some of that time for myself to breathe or to relax, and just to give myself the permission to be me, and sleep as well. I would say on top of that me time, allow parents, especially moms, go to sleep if you've got young babies when the babies sleep. Give yourself that permission to actually be able to do this. Your house is not a show house, it is a home. So it's going to get untidy, there's things going to happen, but that can always be cleaned up. Indeed.
Advice.
Absolutely perfect. That's all we needed to hear, really. Just forget about the house. It's very true. Very, very true. We put a lot of pressures on ourselves. This is what actually my very, very first question I was going to ask you when we started talking was it seems to be that all of this, the arguments we have with our children, the pressure we put on ourselves, the mental load, all of that often stems from the fact that we want things to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Isn't it? It's like searching for perfection, which is not going to happen. We're imperfect. Mm-hmm. The world is imperfect. Mm-hmm. And things will come in the way.
We worry about people judging us.
Yes.
And especially moms, we get judged a lot.
Yep.
And we compare a lot. Yeah.
We do compare a lot, but also you feel judged. I mean, I don't know if other people really judge you, but coming from a community that does judge, and you hear mothers judging each other, then you can't get it out of your head. Nobody can convince you that no one is judging you. Mm-hmm. Because the customs are how the house has to look when visitors come, and how it's supposed to be, and what you should give them. Oh my, it's so much stress. It's so much stress. And I hate it when visitors come. No, I love visitors, but I don't like me when I'm trying to get the house ready, even though they're not going to care.
Yeah, exactly. And it is what I love when visitors come, and when I've had my children at home, even now as adults, if I have a big party happening or whatever, getting them all there and we all doing it together, and just and having fun doing it together, because you can do it so quickly together when they're younger, is it like a game or whatever, but as they get older they will help as well in doing this, and it's a fun way, and it's done. And every house is like this. Every house gets messy, so you think you go into a house and you think, oh, I'd love my house to look like this all of the time, but you didn't see their house 2 or 3 hours before that, so you don't know what it was like. And nobody's going to say, oh, my house is not like this. They're going to give the impression, oh, this is my lifestyle, this is how I live. So nobody really knows what goes on in anybody else's house, and it's the people inside the house that's the important thing, and building those relationships, and alhamdulillah, and doing things for the sake of Allah, and bringing Allah into our lives, inshallah, because that's in the end all we have. Like we look, parenting is from the cradle to the grave, inshallah, and we try and do the best job we can and raise children that will remember us when we're gone, inshallah. And
very good advice.
Mashallah, this is absolutely fascinating. We could go on for hours and hours, couldn't we? And inshallah, maybe there will be another opportunity to have you on our show. So do you want to repeat where we can find out more information about approachable parenting, all the courses that you do? So where is that, please?
Okay, so the courses are called the 5 Pillars of Parenting, usually for pregnancy beyond, 4 to 11 teenagers. And then we have Me for You, and we have our marriage courses, the 5 Pillars of Marriage Foundation and the 5 Pillars of Blissful Marriage for more mature couples down the line, 10, 20 years down the line. We have those courses available. And then we also do courses where we train up parents after our courses to peer mentor other parents. We call them sparklers, because they are definitely sparkling and they do a lot of great work. And we train up trainers in different areas across the UK to deliver our programs, and all our trainers get a teaching qualification. So all of that information is on our website, and it is www.approachableparenting.org.uk. if you look on our social media, that's where you get the up-to-date information of what we are running and when we're running it. A lot of our work at the moment is in the perinatal period because there's such a focus on that, because our statistics in the UK, unfortunately, is not great with our ethnic minorities. So we're doing a lot of work around that to reach hard to hear parents, and you'll find out information about that on our Instagram and on our Facebook and on our Twitter accounts.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time. Really, always very, very interesting, and lots of food for thought, I'm sure, for many of our listeners. So inshallah, we will put all the details also at the bottom of our YouTube video in the description. We had also a video you might want to watch on self-care, which we did, and also another one on youth mental health and wrong thinking. So lots for you to continue to educate yourself on those subjects, inshallah. Thank you so much, Kathleen Roche-Nagi, for
you have a rest of your day well, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Angela. It was a pleasure being with you. Have a good day, all of you, inshallah. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.